Now, I love that you kind of mentioned just like the music, the part that music played in your path, because I feel like even though you're in Hollywood now, music and ultimately just the culture of hip hop is still very prevalent in your work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my first real interaction was I forgot at Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, they used to have these used car sales. And that was that was when my dad got his blue Camaro Z28 1998. And my dad was batshit crazy. So my dad would be doing all types of illegal shit in that car. But when we were at that used car place, there was a man who was selling CDs out of his trunk. And we put this, my dad was like, what's up, man? Trying to be nice, talk to him. And that person came out to be CJ Mack.
Wow.
Crazy. Another artist that I added to the playlist because I knew there was some connection there.
So when I was like 8, I met CJ Mack. And I will never forget it because my mom would let my dad slide with a lot. A CJ Mack CD was a no-go. So for me, in terms of like gangster rap, it was like unforbidden territory. And I never really listened to CJ Mack until I got older. And actually shout out to CJ Mack because I reached out to him once I was, older and told him about the first time I met him. He FaceTimed my dad on Thanksgiving and we have a great relationship with him. So he's absolutely amazing. But, like those influences and then, obviously being in San Diego and having people like Mitchie Slick, but also like San Diego had a local music scene. And I wish I could find one of my CDs where I used to burn all of, I downloaded all of like the local diss tracks that were all from each game. And I had it like, they're iconic, like for us in San Diego, but it's a time that it's like, none of these guys have any of these records. They're not, for the most part, a lot of them aren't on YouTube anymore. And I think I'm only one of the few people who still got them on like a burned CD somewhere. So San Diego had its own influence, obviously, not just from LA. Mac Dre was very influential for San Diego. So a lot of that was also just like, that was also my connective tissue to all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's fire. And again, like you managed to kind of like maneuver those connections that you've made and really like hit the ground running in LA. And like one era that I was always interested in is like, and one thing that was really dope when I started to get to know you is that you founded your own agency, like the Transparency Agency, right?
Yes. So I created a transparency agency in 2015 after leaving Allied Moxie.
Tell us a little bit about, because it is funny, a lot of people kind of have this entrepreneurial spirit in like the millennial age range, but a lot of people don't have the kind of drive to kind of actually go out there and do it. Tell us a little bit about just that decision for you to go and start your own agency and just like what that process and what it took.
So working at Allied Moxie was the first job that I had out of college. And after I graduated from Dominguez, I moved back to my parents' house in San Diego. And I was like, this ain't gonna work. So my last year of college, I was like renting a room and there was a girl who had another room next to me. And I remember she said to me, like, what are you studying? And I told her, she's like, I got a friend that worked at Mercedes-Benz. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I would love, pass along my information. My information got passed along ultimately to what was created to be Allied Moxie, which was the African-American marketing division of Allied Integrated Marketing. Which is known for the most part for, doing all the screenings, handling a lot of the campaigns for a lot of the film studios and TV networks. And so I was the first intern, the first, coordinator, the first junior publicist. But when I started interning there, I was still living at my parents' house. So I would drive from San Diego to Hollywood back and forth every day.
Jesus.
Or take the train just for that internship that I made $8.25 an hour for. And then I also got a social media job when I was searching on LinkedIn, and I used to run social media for Beyond Meat.
and that's so funny because like on the show, me and Josh actually had a conversation about internships a couple of weeks ago, and really kind of like, if you want to go get it, you know what I mean? You're gonna take that step, and like you're like kind of proof positive that like this process does work. And you know, you kind of made your way through that. Like, do you feel like that internship was like really key to getting you there?
Absolutely. Listen, it ain't. There's nothing like, you know, driving, you know, 4 to 6 hours a day after you work 8 hours a day already.
Right.
I mean, you sit in your car and sit in traffic on a 405. Like, you think about a lot. And, you know, I remember one night I was coming, because when I used to also take the train, I have to take the Amtrak to Union Station and then take the Red Line to Hollywood and Highland. And so I remember it was one night there was on a train and I was listening to Good Kid, Mad City. I think I was listening like Please Don't Forget About Me or one of them songs. And I was crying because I was like, I cannot do this. Like, this is not for me. Like, I was like, you know, I'm really pushing myself. And I had promised myself, I was like, I'm never going to do this shit ever again, ever. I was like, I'm not riding the train. I'm not taking the train nowhere. I'm not doing that ever again. I'm out. So like, whatever I got to do to figure out and hustle, you gonna figure it out, girl, because you're not riding this Amtrak no more. And I would just be looking out the window and I was just crying because I was tired. I would have to wake up like at 4:50 a.m. every day. And by the time I would get home from work, from driving from Los Angeles, I wouldn't make it home till like sometimes between like 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. And that was like clockwork Monday through Friday. And then I would only have a Saturday off. Sunday, I would have to start making a social media schedule for what I'm about to post on Beyond Meat. Like, I was juggling a lot, but San Diego was not an option for me. So I was like, you know, I remember, I think it was like December 16th, I had told my boss and I was like, look, girl, I was like, I really like fucking with y'all, but if I got to drive here for like another 3 weeks, I'm about to quit. So they offered me the job, and that was my first time working on film campaigns. And so worked on a lot of the Universal Pictures slate, I think like Screen Gems, Warner Brothers. And so from that, I also had started working in the influencer space super early.
Right.
And so not only was I doing PR, I was working with, I gave Haha Davis his very first campaign.
Hey.
You know, I was trying to break out new influencers all the time.
What was it like kind of breaking through that influence? Because like influencer marketing is everything now. What was it like kind of being first in line to break through that type of marketing? Because it was uncharted territory up to like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Well, for me, it was just it would just be interesting just to see like what you saw people like mostly share. And also just like how people were finding new ways to be funny, because I think before social media, you know, it would be a comedy show. It may be something, you know, like a Shaq's comedy special or something like that. Right. Like we weren't seeing comedy and skits in this type of format. And so when you had influencers like King Batch and all of them that were providing kind of like this upper tier level of comedy, but in like a very attainable way, you were just able to see the way that also like how Black people laugh, right? Because like how King Bash does his stuff is different than how Haha Davis is, right? Or even like right now, how funny Marco is. Like the things and like the ways culturally, especially when things are come from like Southern Black culture, it's super nuanced. And some of the comedy and some of the content, I was like, this is all starting to feel really different, but it's everybody sharing it, everybody's relating to it in some type of way. So I was just fascinated to see, especially the thing that people don't realize is like a lot of the Black creators at that time never really understood how much their content was traveling, because just recently are you able to even see like how many people are sharing stuff. Views are brand new. Like there was a time where views weren't even on video. So Black creators, for the most part, I think for like, in my opinion, lost out on a ton of potential opportunities, not to their fault, but because the way that we were evolving content was not the same way that like Instagram was evolving. So you can share a video, but there's no way to track it. So just trying to figure out like who was getting it right at that time. Kales, Katie Don, like what Vine was doing, how it just was sticky and everybody would be talking about it. It was just trying to unearth like new talent where you could. And I'm really big on like, I see where everybody else focused, but I'm trying to figure out where is everybody not looking at.
Right.
And trying to innovate in a space and then innovate in a space and then get out of it and then innovate in a new space.
Was it tough trying to sell? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure you've worked with a lot of people within marketing that are very used to the old ways. Was it hard to kind of get a hard sell on like, hey, this is going to work? Like influencers, they're the future.
No, because I think, well, I'll say that Universal and Warner Brothers, I think, were really, really early on it and understood it.
Right.
And leaned into it a lot in a lot of different ways creatively. And that is just, a testament to, I think, the leadership that they had there. But they were always super innovative and open to trying to figure. I mean, everybody had their hesitancy because it was so new. But for the most part, it wasn't a super hard sell, but as long as you knew what you was talking about. But again, it was just, at that time, there wasn't enough data to really understand the magnitude of some of the stuff. So I think even at the highest level of even what a Melvin Gregg was at that time, he was a lot bigger than I think even the numbers that anybody had to produce to show how his content was performing.
Yeah. And Melvin Gregg now, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to have anyone that doesn't remember him just from Snowfall and not Vine or anything now.
Exactly.